4 UN peacekeepers are killed in a roadside explosion in Mali. Malawi launches a new typhoid vaccine campaign targeting children. And an innovative solution that could make constantly checking your baby's diaper a thing of the past. Africa 54 starts right now.
Good evening and welcome. I'm Vincent McCory. This is Africa 54. We begin in West Africa, where the United Nations says 4 of its peacekeepers were killed Wednesday when their vehicle ran over a mine in central Mali. The UN says the peacekeepers hit the device along the Bono do Enta road in the Mopti region. 4 other peacekeepers on patrol were seriously injured.
Special Representative, the Secretary General Mohamed Saleh Al-Nadif condemned the attack. We join him in extending our condolences to the families of the victims and in wishing a speedy recovery to those injured.
But now thousands of UN peacekeepers have been deployed to Mali since 2013 to counter an Islamist insurgency and general lawlessness. It's one of the most dangerous peacekeeping operations in the world. 6 Malian soldiers were killed in the same region on Tuesday when their vehicle struck an explosive device. Now, the thorny issue of land expropriation without compensation is again raising tensions in South Africa. The country's new president is calling for talks on the issue to avoid panic. Cyril Ramaphosa says he wants to resolve racial disparities in land ownership once and for all. In his first State of the Nation address 2 weeks ago, Ramaphosa said he would speed up the transfer of land to black South Africans, but he stressed he wants food production and security to be preserved. Earlier this week, the South African Parliament overwhelmingly approved a motion to change the constitution and allow for white-owned land expropriation without compensation. The ruling African National Congress has so far failed to deliver on land reform. But with the 2019 general election looming, Ramaphosa has vowed to get to grips with the issue. Now, the subject of race and land ownership remains highly emotive in post-apartheid South Africa, where white farmers own nearly 3/4 of the country's agricultural land. Civil rights group AfriForum says it will launch an international campaign to inform foreign governments and investors that, as they put it, property rights in South Africa are being threatened. Now, Zimbabweans are recounting the political events of 2017 through imagery. It's part of an exhibition that showcases various photographs, art pieces and videos documenting the historic march in Harare on November the 18th, which ultimately saw the exit of former President Robert Mugabe from 37 years in power. The exhibition, themed Lost and Found, gives insight into the period when Zimbabweans were on edge and certain of what those political events would mean for their country's future. The work, documented by artists and ordinary Zimbabweans, features the moments Mugabe was forced out by the military. It explores various topics and emotions, from jubilation and uncertainty to resilience and hope. The exhibit also aims to provide a platform for artists to reflect and interrogate the country's political events in recent years.
Our stories have been told by many other people. So the motivation was for us to be able to tell our own story through the images that you are seeing in this exhibition, which are coming from both professional and non-professional photographers and artists coming from all over Zimbabwe to be able to tell their story, the events and the moments that transpired into a new dispensation in Zimbabwe on the 18th of November 2017.
The messages that are here are more of the resilience of the people, what people wanted. For the longest time, we've been kind of passive nationals in the country. We've had passive nationals in the country, but we've had an opportunity to show our resilience. We went and marched and we documented the march, showing what people stood for.
Well, about 20 exhibitors are participating in the showcase. Lost and Found runs until April. Now, artificial intelligence is on the cusp of transforming our world in ways many of us can barely imagine. And there is much excitement about emerging technologies. But a new report by 26 of the world's leading AI researchers warns of potential dangers that could arise in coming years as AI systems begin to surpass levels of human performance. Henry Ridgwell reports from London.
Artificial intelligence has the power to change society. This algorithm is able to detect terrorist propaganda online with a 94% success rate, perhaps a vital tool in countering radicalization. Despite positive breakthroughs, there are potential dangers with AI, according to a new report. Automated hacking is identified as one of the most imminent applications of AI, especially so-called phishing attacks.
So you can model someone's topics of interest or preferences, their writing style, the writing style of a close friend, and have a machine automatically create a message that looks a lot like something they would click on.
It's been less than a week.
Programmers from the University of Washington last year built an AI algorithm to create a fake video of Barack Obama, allowing them to put any words into the former president's mouth.
You create videos and audio recordings that are pixel to pixel indistinguishable from real videos and real audio of people.
There is much excitement over self-driving AI cars, with big tech companies alongside giant car makers vying to be the first to market. But there are downsides too.
You can have a car that is as good or better at navigating the world than your average driver. But you put some stickers on a stop sign and it thinks it's a, go at 55 miles per hour. As long as we haven't fixed that problem, we might have systems that are very safe, but are not secure.
AI use in warfare is widely seen as one of the most disturbing possibilities, with so-called killer robots and decision-making taken out of the hands of humans.
You want to have an edge over your opponent by deploying lots and lots of sensors, lots and lots of small robotic systems, all of them giving you terabytes of information about what's happening on the battlefield. And no human would be in a position to aggregate that information, so you would start having decision recommendation systems. At this point, do you still have meaningful human control?
There is also the danger of AI being used in mass surveillance, especially by oppressive regimes. The report authors stress the many positive applications of AI, but they hope many of the potential dangers can be preempted and say AI itself will likely provide many of the solutions. Henry Ridgwell for VOA News, London.
Well, there's been swift media and political reaction to news that White House Communications Director Hope Hicks plans to quit her job. Hicks is one of President Donald Trump's closest advisors. She joined the president's team in the early stages of his election campaign. Hicks' resignation comes a day after she refused to answer numerous questions from a House Intelligence Committee investigating Russian meddling in the 2016 presidential election. Sources say she was nervous and shaken by the all-day grilling before the committee. It is unclear if that was a factor in her decision to step down. President Trump praised Hicks' contributions. Hicks is the fifth person to serve as Trump's communications director in 14 months. She's expected to remain in the job a few more weeks. Now, meanwhile, the investigation into possible collusion between the Trump presidential campaign and Russia is heating up, with more guilty pleas from some of those implicated and the indictment of 13 Russians accused of meddling in the 2016 election. While the outcome of the probe remains unclear and uncertain, it has the potential to become a major issue in this year's congressional midterm elections. VOA national correspondent Jim Malone has more from Washington.
How was the interview, ma'am?
Presidential advisor Hope Hicks was the latest to testify before a congressional committee on the Russia probe. Hicks declined to answer some questions, frustrating Democrats like Congressman Adam Schiff.
This is not executive privilege, this is executive stonewalling.
The Russia investigation, led by special counsel Robert Mueller, has intensified in recent weeks. Former Trump campaign chairman Paul Manafort pleaded not guilty Wednesday to charges including money laundering.
Tell the truth.
Last week, his former deputy, Rick Gates, pleaded guilty to lying to prosecutors and is now cooperating with the investigation. In a series of recent tweets, President Trump once again dismissed the Russia probe as a witch hunt.
They've had this phony cloud over this administration, over our government, and it has hurt our government. It does hurt our government. It's a Democrat hoax.
Among those rejecting that view is the top Democrat on the Senate Intelligence Committee, Senator Mark Warner.
I continue to believe that this is the most important thing that I'll work on in my whole public career. And getting the whole truth out is extraordinarily important.
The Russia probe continues to cast a cloud over the Trump White House, says analyst Kostas Panagopoulos.
I think it is a significant threat. We don't know what that investigation is going to turn up. We don't know how serious these findings will be for the president.
Concerns about the investigation could further erode Trump's historically low approval ratings in the run-up to this year's congressional elections, says John Hudak.
And if Republicans lose the House and/or the Senate in 2018, it's going to mean a disastrous finish to the last 2 years of Trump's first term.
So far, though, the probe seems to be having little impact on Trump's core supporters, says conservative commentator Michael Barone.
The so-called Russia investigation is less of a negative draw on President Trump and his administration and their attention than many of his opponents would like it to be.
For the moment, the president, like everyone else, is left to wonder when the Russia probe will end and what it might find. Jim Malone, VOA News, Washington.
Well, now we want to go back to West Africa, where Sierra Leoneans are going to the polls on March the 7th to choose a new president, parliament, and local council. Incumbent President Ernest Bai Koroma will not run for office again. He served the maximum constitutionally allowed 10 years in office. Now, the main contest is expected to be between the ruling All People's Congress Party, Samura Kamara, and opposition's Sierra Leone People's Party candidate Julius Maada Bio, who briefly led a junta government in the year 1996. Now, the two parties currently dominate Sierra Leone's politics. Now, VOA reporter Peter Cloete is in Freetown. He actually spoke a while ago with one of the candidates. Let's listen.
It's been a very, very interesting journey. There are so many challenges that I've faced along the way, but I think we're on a good home stretch.
Ahead of the elections, I have seen a couple of cases where there have been election-related violence. What are your views, and what do you tell your supporters concerning eschewing violence ahead of the elections?
In actual fact, most of my speeches that I give the past couple of weeks has been more emphasizing on nonviolence. And I try to paint a scenario to my supporters, and when I speak in general, I mean, there's a mixture of people supporting all the different parties. And I tell them, amongst us politicians, among us flag bearers, we socialize, we meet at functions, we eat together, we drink together. And why on earth would our supporters be killing each other? And I try to paint that picture for them to realize that the election is not about muscle, it's not about fighting, it's about ideas. You either buy into it or you don't. And I find it very upsetting when I hear of cases where family members are no longer speaking to each other because of their political views. And I explain to them that, look, Sierra Leone has a small population. The goal with this election is for us to stop, to pray, to think who is the best candidate to move Sierra Leone forward.
Well, looking at the way the Electoral Commission has comported itself, transparency-wise, are you comfortable with it alongside some of your candidates, colleague candidates ahead of the elections?
I think if anybody says they're comfortable, we'll be being a little naive. We had big issues about allowing our cars on the road, and from the last election where nobody was allowed to move, you basically voted and went home. And somewhere around 6 p.m., the whole country was plunged into darkness. And the way the country has been run so far does not speak well of us having confidence that everything is going to be free, is going to be fair, boxes are not going to end up in garbage cans. No, I am going to be on edge, until the last vote is counted.
So let me ask you about your realistic chances, because I've heard people say, you are Johnny come lately. What do you say to them when they ask you about your realistic chances of beating the APC?
I believe that if I do not feel my chances are good, I would not be in the race. And I think the APC, as much money as they're throwing around, I think for the most part the electorate knows their game. It's been ongoing for 10 years. And I am in the race to win it, so I have to favor my chances. And I think that Sierra Leone is ready for a different set of eyes on our problems and on our solutions. I think the APC has really passed their sell-by date, and for the most part, the people of Sierra Leone are fully aware. But then the people will decide.
You know, Sierra Leoneans can be conservative about the leadership role. Some are saying Sierra Leoneans are not ready for a woman president right now. What do you tell them?
I think Sierra Leone is ready for a good president who happens to be female. I think that if I were a presidential candidate who went on radio, came on your interview, and just spoke gibberish, nonsense, then Sierra Leone would see through me in a minute. But if what I'm saying they're relating to, it makes sense to them, then I am as viable a candidate as any of the other 15 presidential candidates.
What is your message to the people of Sierra Leone before the elections and as you round up your campaign for the elections in a few days' time?
Well, there are two messages I give, no matter where I am speaking. I first of all try to let them know the importance of their vote. I really try to tell them there are countries that are still battling for this democracy that we're enjoying today, and it is precious. Your vote is so critical that when somebody gives you a T-shirt and 30,000, if it is your wish to accept it, do so, but then do so with another comment that, thank you for this T-shirt, but I want good schools. I want good hospitals. I want good roads. I want to be able to go to the bathroom and flush my toilet. I want to be able to wake up at 6, get ready for school and leave, not wake up at 3, spend 2 hours getting water, and then walk 6-7 miles to school and 6-7 miles home. Thanks for your T-shirt, but I need a little more from you.
Thank you very much.
You're most welcome.
Well, that is Femi Claudius Call of the Unity Movement Party in Sierra Leone, a presidential candidate. And we want to know now what you think about Africa 54 and the stories we covered during the conversation on Facebook. The address is Africa 54. We're also streaming our show live on Facebook, so check us out and share our show with your friends. Find me on Twitter at VOA Vince McCory. Now, coming up, Malawi's new vaccine campaign targeting children. Stay with us.
How do you see the world?
I see countries in turmoil.
I see our planet changing.
I see people at peace.
No matter how you see the world, you'll get an unbiased and uncensored view of it on Voice of America. On television, radio, online, and mobile. In more than 40 languages all day, every day. Millions of people tune us in.
How do I see the world? On Voice of America.
Well, and joining us now is Africa 54 health correspondent Lino Madu. What do you have for us today, Lino?
Hello, Vincent. Well, Malawi has hit a medical milestone. The country has launched the first ever typhoid vaccine clinical trial in Africa. The vaccine is approved by the World Health Organization and is aimed at fighting typhoid infections in children. 4-year-old Golden Kondowe is the first child to receive the vaccine in Blantyres in Dirande Township through a clinical trial. The Malawi Liverpool Wellcome Trust, which is running the program, says the clinical trials aim to test the efficacy and cost-effectiveness of the typhoid conjugate vaccine, TCV.
Many parents are skeptical about the vaccine, but I know it'll be helpful. We just have to protect our children and babies. Typhoid is claiming many lives, both in rural and urban areas.
Researchers from the University of Liverpool and the Liverpool School of Tropical Medicine have been working with their local counterparts to develop the vaccine for about 20 years. The new vaccine has been approved by the World Health Organization. About 24,000 children from age 9 months to 12 years will take part in the study funded by the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation.
Until about 5 years ago, there was relatively little typhoid here in Blantyre in Malawi. And what we have been able to show is that there has been a big outbreak, not only in Malawi and Blantyre, but across many big cities in Africa. And we've been able to show that this is a new strain of typhoid that came across to the continent from the Indian subcontinent, and it's multi-drug resistant, which means that it's transmitted very quickly and spread very quickly.
And with the study that our colleagues did, they found that Ndilande has a lot of typhoid cases. So the coming in of this vaccine, we hope to reduce the number of the cases that we register.
Typhoid is a highly contagious infection caused by a bacteria and contracted by consuming contaminated foods or drinks. The disease is usually treated with antibiotics and can be deadly if left untreated. Typhoid fever affects between 12 and 20 million people worldwide, particularly in South Asia and Sub-Saharan Africa. Now, a new device is said to help the human body lose weight by using electric stimulation. And it was unveiled at the Mobile World Congress in Spain. A British health tech company, Neurovalence, showcased their wearable tech headset, Modius. The company says it's a non-invasive and drug-free device tested by more than 3,000 consumers. Modius helps the human body to lose weight by using electric stimulation and activating the brain's hypothalamus. As a result, people can lose up to 7 pounds in 2 to 3 months.
We really looked at the neurological aspect of this, and there's part of your brain, it's called your hypothalamus, and it actually is what makes weight loss difficult. So when people lose some weight initially, they tend to plateau, and then it becomes very, very difficult to lose weight, usually because appetite starts to increase or metabolic rate goes right down, and ultimately people just can't maintain any weight loss. We looked at technology to try and stimulate that area of your brain, and Modius, the device that we have here today, actually non-invasively influences the hypothalamus, and ultimately it just makes it easier for people to lose some weight.
The United States Food and Drug Administration and the UK's Medicines and Healthcare Products Regulatory Agency have classified the Modius headset as a general wellness device. Now, in other health tech news, some new tiny pacemakers are making headway around the world. The manufacturer says one type is keeping 15,000 people's hearts beating in 40 countries. Studies show these small pacemakers are safe. And as VOA's Carol Pearson reports, doctors expect the technology will help more heart patients over time.
A healthy heart has its own pacemaker that establishes its rhythm. But some people need the help of an artificial pacemaker.
My heart does not beat regularly. It skips beats. And sometimes it's normal, and then all of a sudden it just goes out of rhythm.
At Ohio State University's Wexner Medical Center, Trejo became one of the first patients in the United States to have a pacemaker that's only 24 millimeters long, implanted in her heart. This device is 1/10 the size of traditional pacemakers. Most pacemakers rely on batteries placed under the skin that use wire leads with electrodes on one end to connect to the heart. This tiny pacemaker simplifies that.
The electrodes are part of the can, and therefore it eliminates the lead.
Ralph Augustini implanted Trejo's pacemaker. He threaded the entire device through an artery in her leg up to the heart. The pacemaker has small tines that anchor it into the folds of the heart muscle. Some doctors have called the device revolutionary.
We don't leave any wires behind, and the pacemaker, the battery, the wire is all just a tiny little piece of metal sitting down in the heart.
Because no surgery is required to place a battery under the skin, as with traditional percutaneous pacemakers, and there are no leads traveling from the battery to the heart, there are fewer complications. Leads are the weakest part of traditional devices.
The complication rates in general for a leadless pacemaker to date have been about half what a traditional percutaneous pacemaker would have.
Studies show that the micro-pacemaker used by medical centers at Ohio State and Missouri is more than 95% effective. The battery can last for 14 years, and after that, doctors can implant another one into the same chamber of the heart and repeat it a third time if needed. These tiny pacemakers are not right for all patients, but as the technology develops, doctors expect more people will be able to use them. As for Mary Lou Trejo, 4 years after getting the new pacemaker, her doctors say she's doing fine. Carol Pearson, VOA News, Washington.
That's our health report for today. Stay in touch for more. As always, find me on Twitter at @LenorModou. Vincent, back to you.
Well, I want to thank you very much, Lenore, for joining us today. Be sure to watch for Lenore Modou every Tuesday and Thursday for the latest health news in Africa right here on Africa 54. And it's time now for a short break. Still to come on Africa 54, a new gadget that answers an age-old question. Does my baby need a diaper change? We'll tell you more after the break. Welcome back to Africa 54, and here's what's trending. Is this the future of personal travel? The PAL V Liberty is a three-wheel, two-seat car and gyroplane rolled into one, and it will be unveiled at Geneva's Motor Show in Switzerland next week. The vehicle opts for a design that adds a gyroplane engine and propellers to a tilting sports car. With a €500,000 price tag, the first production runs of 90 of the flying cars is not for everybody. PAL V needs a short airstrip to take off and land, so instead of getting you out of traffic, the car and an app try to ensure you don't get into traffic in the first place. Well, and that's our show for today. Thanks a lot for watching, and see you soon. Have a good night. Thanks.
Welcome to English in a Minute. A lot of American English idioms refer to parts of the body.
Get off on the wrong foot.
Are Anna and Jonathan having trouble learning a dance?
How did it go meeting your girlfriend's family?
Well, it was interesting. First, I was really late.
Oh, Jonathan.
Yeah, and then at dinner I spilled my water all over